about you, we want to know. So I brought you on my show, we want to know. With today's special guest, Seriah, writer of Riyah Speaks.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It is your girl Kai, and welcome to episode 2 of We Want to Know. We are finally back after a long hiatus. Please forgive me. But today we have an amazing guest with us, someone I know, Seriah from Riyah Speaks.
Hi.
Clap it up. This is my virtual clap. So I brought you here today because you have a blog, and I think that's so interesting, and it speaks on lifestyle and self-care. So I wanted you to come on here and just talk about that. So I guess first I wanted to just ask you, like, why a blog, especially when you started it, because you started it like during quarantine time. So why then?
So at first, the blog was more like something I could do to kind of showcase my skills, because I was studying marketing for my master's and I'd studied journalism, but due to the climate in which journalism was, I chose not to pursue a career in that. And I love to write. I've always loved to write. And then the pandemic came and no one could do anything. I moved back to the city literally the day it closed, which is so exciting. I had nothing else to do and I needed to let out some steam. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna write. And it started off as just like a regular schmegular blog. I wrote about everything and anything I could write about, books, myself, everything. And then I decided, like, there's so many people who are kind of lonely right now, who don't know how to take care of themselves, who've probably never been in a predicament such as the pandemic. And I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather change my blog to be a resource for people to look to for inspiration, for ideas on how they could better themselves and things of that nature.
That's dope that you just mentioned that, because that was actually like one of the things that I was wondering, because I remember in the beginning, because I was like reading your blog and it was just everything, but it was great content, so like you changed and you should like, so what has been like the major difference that you've seen with your blog ever since you like rebranded kind of?
So ever since I call it the rebranding, kind of, that's what I reference it on the blog. Ever since I rebranded, I've noticed that a lot more people reach out to me for like advice, which was surprising because I've never considered myself to be someone who could offer great advice. Like in every friend group I'm in, I'm always the one asking questions. I'm never the one giving answers. So it was definitely something to get used to. And like people were actually thanking me. They're like, wow, like I found your blog post on like mental health and it made me realize that like, I should go to therapy, or like, wow, I really learned about journaling. I'm starting a bullet journal now thanks to you. And it feels nice to know that although I'm not like a mega celebrity, that there is someone out there who is finding my work useful and that I am making some small difference, which is all I really wanted coming out of the rebranding, is to make a difference somewhere, anywhere from the comfort of my bed.
Yeah, that's all that we all want. Just make a difference. That's it. So
Yeah.
you spoke briefly about masters. Congratulations, you got it. You got your masters. So how do you think your school, your school life, you would say, or what you learned in school shaped how you're able to function and work through your blog?
So I'll start with my bachelor's. When I was studying, so I moved away from New York and into Albany because I thought I hated New York City. After high school, I was kind of like, screw everyone in New York City. Everyone fucking hates me. There's nothing there for me. And being in Albany actually taught me that I was wrong. I mean, yes, no, people still actually do hate me, but I was wrong about there being nothing here. There's plenty for me here. And I actually went through a lot of mental health issues in Albany in regards to schooling. I realized that I was going into something I wasn't really passionate about, which is one of the reasons why I ended up switching gears, going into my master's, because I chose journalism because I just love to write. And I was like, all right, I can just, work on a newspaper. Boom. But studying it, I realized there's so much more that goes into that. And I didn't really like it. And then, so that taught me to never go for something that won't make you happy. Mm-hmm. Because now I'd rather do something that I can get a little semblance of happiness from rather than just the money. And then my master's gave me the actual skills I need to properly work a blog, like understanding the finances, social media, and things like that. And it also taught me that I'm actually pretty good when it comes to speaking and talking about things as long as I'm passionate about it, which is what was the big picture going into my master's.
For as long as I've known you, you've always been able to speak up about things you're passionate about. No matter like, someone you know could be telling you a whole different outlook and you're like, no, this is this. Like, you've always been that person. So it's so dope to see you have like your own blog. So like with your blog, I guess, do you like now I have a brain fart at random, but how important do you think blogs like this, talking about mental health and, you know, lifestyle is for women, but more specific, women of color?
I think it's very important because by blogging, I've met a lot of people within the blogging community. Some people who even write about the exact same things as me. But the difference is not all of them are women of color. A lot of people who are blogging currently are white people, but that's because blogging is a lot of money, especially if you want Google to rank you, you want brand sponsorships. It takes a lot to blog. It also takes a lot of mental capacity, which means that the only resources really available out there for people who are blogging are really, you know, the blogs that actually exist, which are more tailored towards either the general female population, cis female population, if I might point out, or white women. And so as a person of color, I think it's very important that I'm out there because it's not out there. There isn't many women of color writing about this because mental health is still a stigmatized conversation within conversations between people of color. It needs to be more out there within those communities. And if people within those communities see someone like me writing about these topics, then it may make them feel more comfortable in speaking about it. And we could break that, I like to call the generational curse of mental health being such a scary thing within those communities, particularly more African American, Hispanic communities, because in the Native community, they already are kind of aware of these type of things, and that's why they have certain practices within it. But it's mostly within Hispanic and Black communities that it's still so stigmatized.
Yeah, for sure.
So it is definitely really important.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely, we need as many resources as we can get with people who look like us. So I know, like, being a writer, you have to be really vulnerable to discuss like what's going on with you so that people can relate. So I know you have a pretty popular post called Your Open Letter to Depression. How big was that to write and just kind of divulge what you were going through to the people?
It was cathartic. I had actually written that post a long time ago before it was published. I wrote it in like the period that I kind of took a break, which was like I'd say I think it was like September 2019 all the way till like I came back out, which was like February. And I wrote it that Christmas like year. And it took me forever to publish because I was debating on whether or not it was worth publishing. You know, on the one hand, a lot of people could relate, and there are a lot of people like me who do go through that. But on the downside, I really didn't want to put my family and the people I love in a predicament where, like, you know, suddenly they're like, oh, why weren't you there for her? X, Y, and Z. That didn't happen, luckily, because although my name is attached to my blog, there's still a sense of anonymity to it. I don't really talk about my blog to like people that are close to me, like my mom, my dad. Like I don't really discuss it with them because I don't want it to, I say, affect them.
Yeah.
So when I finally published it, it was like a whoo feeling, like a wow, I did it. We're gonna see where this goes. And honestly, if it would have went down the bad path, I would have unpublished it. I wouldn't have kept it up there. I would have unpublished it because if there's anything I learned from journalism is you never want to publish something that causes more harm than good. It's just not worth it. You know, I had plenty of other posts. Like, it's not a big deal, you know, but ironically enough, me writing that post helped a lot of people to be like, I can relate to you, you know, I have this too, and I actually don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Which caused the future discourse.
Depression is so like, I guess you could say taboo. The mentality of it is like, it seems like it's so taboo, especially in our communities. So to have, you know, someone who looks like you saying like, this is what I'm going through, this is how I got through it, it's amazing because so many people can relate, because there's like kind of like what you said, you know, like you're scared that your family's going to be like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you tell us? What, you know, I could have helped you. And you kind of just don't want to cross that boundary. But at the same time, you do need to release that and, you know, put it out in the world, I guess.
Right. And for me at the time, I wasn't going to therapy because I had already experienced one bad thing with therapy. So I was kind of on that path of, I'll never go to therapy again, which turned out to not be true. But during that time, I was kind of like anti-therapist. And so an anti-mental health professionals, period. And so that for me served as kind of like a release. Because like I journal, I do other things, but you know, sometimes you just need to let the world see it. Because sometimes you get to a point where you're like talking to your family and talking to like, you know, like my boyfriend, for example, it's just not enough.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want somebody else to see it. And you just want like someone you've never talked to know what's happening. Because sometimes all we want is a little sympathy.
Honestly.
So
honestly.
That's really what it was. And it came out for the better. I still get people who comment and or DM me on Instagram or email me like, oh, wow, I read your open letter recently. Like, thank you for writing it. I had these same exact feelings. You know, it feels really nice to know that I'm not alone, because many people feel alone, especially during the pandemic.
Especially when people don't know, I feel like when they don't know what they're going through, you know, because sometimes people don't know what depression is, you know, there's still people who don't know what that is. They don't know what anxiety is. And it's
Right.
common with a lot of people, especially college students, you know, just everything that we go through. Anxiety is, I feel like it's gotten bigger and people are starting to realize what it is and what it's like to go through that.
Right. And I think people fail to realize that it also varies depending on who you are, what you're like. You said we've known each other since high school, and I'm always been an outgoing person, but I feel like I kind of hit a switch when I hit college. Like I just wasn't who people know Seriah to be, which was outgoing, friendly, always the life of the party. You know, I feel like college definitely like turned me off and just made me the worst possible version I could be, which was like failing every class, you know, wanting to drink every day, just going to work, just like, what, you know, not really take care of myself because I was just so focused on everything else except myself. You know, and I think most college kids go through that because what I've come to realize, people don't go to college because they want to. Most of the time, something makes them go to college. Their parents, money, they're like a first generation kid. They need to go to college to fix the family name. They're, you know, they're trying to live up to their siblings, you know, oh, it's a traditional thing. Every family member goes to the same college, but it's never because we want to go to college. In my case, I was really afraid of letting my parents down. My siblings had already basically let my parents down and they're younger than me. So now it was like, well, you're the oldest, be the example, maybe they'll follow you type thing.
Okay, yeah.
So, and that pressure just made me go on this steady decline that I honestly was not prepared for. So.
Well, we thank you for your contributions to like helping people know and making them more aware. Seriously. So you just had your 100th blog post. That's another clap it up. Accomplishments on accomplishments. So how does it feel to have like your 100th post?
It's weird. I didn't think I was gonna make it to this point, you know. I get really bored pretty easily, and like I tell my boyfriend, I was like, listen, I'm not gonna do this forever. Like this is just because I can't get a job. Then I got a job, and I was like, well, I mean, this is better than, you know, not having anything to do in the house. And then that turned into, you know, like I kind of like it. And I just kind of kept going. And like I had a decent following, and I was like, I kind of like in my head, I was like, there's people that actually like what I write, that it feels good. So like I'm gonna keep going, you know. But as long as I could financially, mentally, and physically do it, I'm gonna keep going.
As you should, exactly. So now we are gonna play a quick game. I like to call this segment We Also Want to Know, and it's inspired by our season 1 of We Want to Know, where I ask you random questions, completely random questions, and you just answer it as best as you want to answer it. So here we go. We're gonna start. Question 1: if you could rename any food, what would it be and why?
Rename a food?
Yeah, rename a food completely.
Hot dog. I would rename hot dogs because honestly, one, I don't like hot dogs. They're disgusting. They're made from every other animal. Call it the mixed animal meal or something.
Not the mixed animal meal.
It's completely a lie. Hot dogs are made from the leftover parts that people don't want in cows and other meat. So you're lying to the whole human population. We deserve to know what's in them hot dogs, and it's definitely not just cow beef. You
Why
know?
don't they name it what's I don't know. We want to know dog because we don't really know what's in it. And you just
or like leftover dog, the leftover meat dog, you know?
Makes sense. Okay. Next question. Pineapples on pizza, yay or nay? Do not be. Why, Seriah? Why?
It tastes good. I'm sorry, sweet and savory.
It's on pizza. It's like, come on.
I wouldn't do it with like another topping though. Like if I'm gonna do pineapple on pizza, it's just gonna be the pine. It's not gonna be pineapple sausage and pepperoni. Like that's gross.
There's limits. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. Tell us one of your most randomest conspiracy theories that you have.
Damn, I cannot remember. I said something today. I wish I could remember. And it's gonna come back to me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I say this at least once a day and I can never remember what it is.
Wow, once a day. This is serious.
Christian, what did I say earlier that caused you to call me a conspiracy theorist?
Huh?
What did I say earlier that you called me a conspiracy whatever for?
Oh, for not trusting mental health professionals.
Oh, yeah. So I'm not anti-therapist, but I do have this notion. And I was talking to my boyfriend and I was like, you know, I think every mental health professional really just wants to call us crazy. That's why they don't take the time to properly diagnose us. They do like the ABC questions, like if or that, this or that. And they don't explain nothing. They're very vague. And then they're like, oh, yeah, depression, pill. And then when you don't take the pill, they send your ass to a hospital and then make it worse than it seems. And like, it was meant to be a joke, but I say this about once a day because in the back of my mind, I'm like, pretty sure. I'm pretty sure this is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to test you with all the pills to see how you'd react.
Interesting theory. Very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Next question. What is one kid movie that scares you? Like currently still scares you? Mine's is Zathura, if you wanted to know. Zathura scares the mess out of me. Yeah, like a kid's movie.
I don't think there's any kids movies that scare me.
Really? Okay, how about like back in the day? Like when you were a kid, it scared you.
Back in the day, I was terrified of that one horror movie where like the toys were like controlled by the devil. I don't remember the name of it, but I didn't play with toys for a while.
That sounds like a scary version of Toy Story because I don't toys.
No, but it wasn't Toy Story because like I grew up with Toy Story. Me and my family love Disney, but basically it was like a semi-thriller, I'd call it. Like there was like your traditional horror movie white girl, the innocent girl. She made a pact with the devil. The devil came to collect. She tried to potentially talk about. Here comes the Toy Story room.
Wow. Okay. I've never ever.
But it was terrifying, and I swear I didn't touch toys for months after. And that was close to Christmas, so that Christmas sucks because every toy that I got, I was like, nope.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay, and this is the last one. This is really just kind of like your opinion kind of question because you are always on the internet. If you could describe the internet in one sentence, what would it be?
It's a fucking black hole. It's a black hole.
That was good.
Sometimes you may end up on the nice side. Sometimes you may end up in the dark web looking for guns. Who knows?
That was good. Okay, so I would never thought of that, but that was great. So that ends our segment of We Also Want to Know, our quick gaming section. Now back to the questions. We only have a few more questions before we end off this episode. So before we end, I did have, sorry y'all, I'm looking down at my book of questions just to make, So before we go, I just wanted to ask you, because I know you also have an Etsy website. So I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that and what's on there.
So my Etsy is kind of like a little of everything. I have some clothes, some candles, some like, I want to call it wall art or like posters, whichever one you prefer. That are like motivational, like quotes, sayings, things like that. And then some of it are like gifts, like, oh, best dad, funny dad mug. Oh, like, I love you, mom. And, best sister. It kind of depends on what you're shopping for,
Yeah. Okay.
And I have some seasonal stuff. Like I have a bunch like of Halloween related stuff. And now I'm working on Christmas. So hopefully I'll find time to actually put them up there.
Oh, okay. Make sure y'all go shop with her. Black Friday is coming up. Make sure y'all go.
Yes, please. I'm actually running my Black Friday sale all month.
Wow.
It's 25% off all items.
There we go.
So please shop. I need the money.
Speaking of that, how has that been, like trying to juggle Etsy and then like you have your blog and then you have work and then it's like, how has that been, like juggling all that?
Whew. Mentally, some days I'm so exhausted and some days I'm just like, screw the world, I'm not doing nothing. Other days it's pretty okay. I've learned to use a planner. That's basically how I manage everything. I time block or I set schedules, like, all right, today I'm working on Etsy, tomorrow I'm working on the blog, today I'm doing nothing. And I try to be ahead of things. Like on my blog, I try to write posts a month ahead of time so that when that month comes, I don't have to worry about it. All I have to do is just schedule, take pictures, whatever, depending on what the content is. And then for my Etsy, it kind of depends on the time, but I do try to work on that mostly on the weekends because I do work on Wall Street. So it's like realistically, I won't have time to do it during the week since I'm at work. And I try to block it off. So one week I may do like, all right, I'm gonna do 5 items today. And the next week I'm like, all right, I got 5 items last week. I'm gonna do 3 items this week, But I always try to do like at least 3 to 4 new products a week when it comes to my Etsy. That way, by the time Christmas season comes,
you're ready.
It's there and ready.
Makes sense. So before we close out, I'd like to close out my episodes with at least a piece of advice from our guests. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to start up a blog or even an Etsy? Like, what advice would you give to them to not only start, but be successful when they start?
So I'll go with the blog because I wouldn't consider myself like successful on Etsy yet because I'm also just starting. For the blog though, definitely do your research. Don't just sign up for any website that offers like a website platform, for example, like if you're deciding between like Wix and WordPress, definitely research the benefits of both and the cons. You should always know that and get your money together because blogs are expensive and you do not want to start a blog on $0. You definitely want to make sure you have a little money in your back pocket so that if something happens, you can, hire someone or something. And write about what you love. Don't write because it's popular, write because you love it.
Yeah. So we want to say thank you for joining us. Tell the people where they could follow you or follow your blog and everything.
So everything as far as my blog goes, it's at Riyah Speaks, except Instagram, it's at Riyahspeaksblog. Riyah Speaks, it's spelled RIYAH and then the word speaks. That's for everything, blog, Twitter, TikTok, there you go, I can't remember, Pinterest, Facebook. As far as my Etsy, it's also Riyah Speaks, but it's Riyahspeaksdesigns. And yeah, I'm on all of my platforms basically 24/7. You guys could always say hi. My blog, currently I am posting 3 days a week because of the holiday season, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And all blog posts come out at midnight on those days. So depending on where you live, you can see them sooner than later.
Yeah, thank you. So all that information will be down below in my description box. So make sure if you want to tap in with her that you go to the description box and click on the links down below. But we also want to say thank you for joining us today on this episode of We Want to Know. And if you guys have any questions that probably wasn't answered, you should check out our 100th blog post because she answers over like 60 questions. So your question might be there and might be answered. So again, thank you for joining us. And this has been the official episode 2 of We Want to Know. Come back next time for episode 3. We're so excited for you all to stay tuned. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and also hit that notification bell to be notified every single time I post. Till next time, bye.